Brickowski had words. Oh, you can see it coming.
And as you mentioned before, Mark and Bill, Dennis Rodman has to be very careful already with that first technical foul. Any kind of talking or two players getting together like that, and he will get whistled for that second and be tossed.
It's absurd that Dennis Rodman can walk around acting like, look what they're doing to me. They're hitting me. They're pushing me. Dennis Rodman initiates all that stuff. Rodman inside there, just keeps walking right into Brickowski. Elbows, arms all tied up. Innocent victim, Dennis. Defenders, he's just trying to go through him or over him. That won't work.
And Joe Crawford says stay right here, and Dennis Rodman could be losing it. Now he's applauding the call. Rodman was about to get involved and then walked away.
Joe Crawford is going to call a flagrant foul here on Frank Brickowski.
So Dennis Rodman, who has had his ups and downs at the line, is able to hit the first for his first point of the night.
Brickowski looking to box out, looking to keep Rodman off, but just moved over with the forearm, with the elbow to the upper midsection. Very dangerous play, uncalled for.
And now Judd Bushler replaces Dennis Rodman. The conversation continues. And a technical has been called on Brickowski. And he's been called a double technical on Frank Brickowski. Apparently Joe Crawford feels that the intent of Brickowski was to instigate something against Rodman. Brickowski now walking in the direction of a couple of balls, and he's joined by a security man and is ushered back to the locker room.
And he got a couple of parting shots to referee Joe Crawford, and then one final parting shot to, I'm sure, Jack Haley sitting on the bench.
An absolutely uncalled for situation by Brickowski, who's a good, skilled basketball player who sometimes gets too caught up in the physical aspect of the game. But he gets a flagrant foul and then two technicals. We're going to just see a parade to the line.
A night which saw Dennis Rodman get the better of this exchange with Frank Brickowski. If Brickowski's intention was to rile the Rodman, that strategy backfired. As a result of the elbow, Brickowski was hit with a flagrant foul. He gave Rodman a mouthful. Eventually, he'd continue arguing with both Rodman and Jack Haley, who Brickowski referred to as Rodman's babysitter. Referee Joey Crawford had heard enough at that point. He gave Brickowski a second technical, thereby tossing the brick.
Now you have Dennis Rodman, who laughs at the NBA referees, who laughs at the NBA authority. That elbow that Frank Brickowski was a flop. Rodman flopped it into a flagrant foul. And then you get two technicals on top of it. I think the call had a big impact on the game. And there's no way it was a flagrant foul. It was a flop. And that they have Dennis Rodman, who cheats all over the court all the time, be rewarded for acting and flopping, and then let him laugh at us, laugh at the league, laugh at the referee, taunt our bench, and not be punished. Makes me incredibly mad.
Frank's an all-around ball player, and they sent him in a goon role and to play a part, and I don't think Frank wants to or needs to play that part, and that's not what's going to disturb Dennis. Dennis is above that, and he's proven it all playoffs.
My job is to go in and play defense to keep Dennis off the board, and that's a big job for me. You know, Dennis is a brilliant rebounder. I'm desperate in the sense that I'm here for the first time in my career, and I will do anything to help my team win. And if it means knocking Dennis on his butt, that's what I'll do. And Dennis will do the same to me. So the clarity of all that is cool as far as the championship goes, and I don't have a problem with any of that.
welcome to another episode of Throwing the Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. Let's not waste no more time. Let's get right to it. So, Dennis Rodman is one of the greatest agitators in the history of the NBA. He knew very much how to get into a player's head, okay? He knew how to get into a player's head, and of course he learned that from the bad boy Pistons, Mahorn, Lambert. Of course, where would he learn that from? And James Worthy said that Dennis is one of the best defensive players he's ever played against. And James Worthy said what made it even worse is he knew Rodman how to get inside your head. Okay. He knew how to get inside your head. And not only that, James Worthy said Dennis Rodman will also squeeze your butt. He would squeeze your butt, okay? And that is something that Rodman said Rick Mahorn taught him, to squeeze the opponent's butt, okay, or whatnot. But so so that was Dennis Rodman is one of the greatest agitators the NBA has ever seen. And so fast forward to 1996 when he's playing with the Chicago Bulls, okay? Bulls are 72-10, and they're back in the NBA Finals for the first time since 1993, okay? So they're playing the Seattle Supersonics, who went 64-18 that year. And they actually defeated the Bulls earlier in the year. It was a come-from-behind win in Seattle back in November, where the Sonics came from behind to beat the Bulls in Seattle. They split the season series 1-1. Chicago and Seattle did. Okay. And so now they're meeting in the 1996 finals, okay? And game one was going back and was competitive, going back and forth between Seattle and Chicago. Chicago won 107-90. Chicago eventually pulled away in the fourth quarter. But it was in the second quarter where Rodman showed once again he is one of the greatest agitators in the history of the NBA, because there was a guy on Seattle by the name of Frank Brickowski, okay? And Brickowski played for the Lakers, the Spurs, the Bucks, the Hornets, and he eventually came to the Seattle Supersonics. So they inserted Frank Brickowski in the game in the first or second quarter. Can't remember, and he's playing Dennis Rodman, okay? And Dennis Rodman got under his skin so badly. Rodman got under his skin so badly that Frank Brickowski was thrown out, okay? Frank Brickowski was kicked out just like that. And not only was he thrown out, but some of the Bulls players were actually laughing at the fact that Frank Brickowski was getting thrown out of the game because of Dennis Rodman. So he gets kicked out in game one. Then he gets kicked out again in game three because Dennis Rodman is still clearly in his skin, in his head. And so he gets kicked out in game three, but yet George Karl actually has enough sense, if you know what I mean. George Karl has enough sense to bench Irvin Johnson and yet start Frank Brickowski in game 4, 5, and 6. Okay, which I can see why he did it. Irvin Johnson wasn't giving them nothing, but neither was Frank Brickowski either. So, but weird move by George Karl because Frank Brickowski did nothing. Irvin Johnson did nothing. So, but anyway, Frank Brickowski recently talked about, Brickowski and Rodman recently talked about this. And Frank Brickowski said he wasn't physical. He wasn't a badass. He wasn't a fighter. But he was a flopper. And he worked it. That cheapens the game in my mind. I don't know why it took the NBA so long to put in a flopping rule, but they should have put it in 15 years ago. Okay. So this is 1996 NBA, where you could still hand check to a certain degree, but it was being phased out. You could still get physical, and you could still get into opponents' heads pretty easily. Unlike today, where unlike Russell Softbrook had a fan thrown out because a fan was talking trash. And Russell Westbrook is one of the softest motherfuckers I've ever seen in the NBA today. But back to the main point. Robin said, it's all a mind game. If you want to get caught up in what I'm doing, you're screwed, okay? So, Brickowski for the series averaged only 10 minutes per game, 2 points per game, and 1.4 rebounds per game. And yet, George Karl somehow inserted him into the starting lineup for Game 4 and benched Irvin Johnson for the rest of the series. George Karl called Dennis Rodman a flopper. He said it was a joke. Rodman breaks the rules, and he laughs at the NBA. He taunted our bench. Brickowski gets thrown out of the game without one curse word being said. They get 4 free throws. Rodman flops all over the place. He laughs at everybody. I think it's silly that he gets any credibility at all. Well, he gets credibility because he's a smart player. Okay. He gets credibility because he's a smart player. And he's an excellent rebounder too, and one hell of a defender. Okay. And if you ask any of the bad boy Pistons, they'll tell you that's Dennis Rodman's way of trying to get into an opponent's head. And it worked with Alonzo Mourning. It worked with Shaquille O'Neal to a certain degree. It really worked with Frank Brickowski. So yeah, Dennis Rodman is a smart player. I think that's kind of what the Bulls were lacking after the departure of Horace Grant. Horace Grant was an excellent player. Rodman was an excellent player too, just like Horace, an excellent rebounder. But Dennis Rodman could get under your skin, and he can mess up your head, which is something Horace Grant would not do. So yeah, but he got thrown out in Game 1 and Game 3. Frank Brickowski did. I remember in Game 3, Rodman was sitting on the bench. Okay, it was a free throw situation in Game 3. And Rodman was sitting on the bench, and George Karl inserted Frank Brickowski. And as soon as Phil Jackson saw that Frank Brickowski got put into the game, he said he called for Dennis Rodman to come up off the bench and get into the game too. So I think Phil Jackson and Dennis Rodman were the perfect match, because Phil will play mind games. We all know Michael will play mind games, and Dennis Rodman will play mind games too. So, George Karl talked about Dennis Rodman getting it's silly that he gets any credibility. Well, check this out. He had 13 more rebounds in Game 1. He had 20 rebounds in Game 2. 11 of those rebounds were offensive rebounds. 10 rebounds in Game 3. 14 rebounds in Game 4. 8 of them offensive. 12 rebounds in Game 5. And Rodman had 19 rebounds in the Game 6 clincher. And again, had 11 offensive rebounds, okay? That's why Dennis Rodman gets credibility. That's one of the greatest agitators in the history of the NBA. Probably along with Bill Laimbeer, okay? I would say the only thing closest to an agitator we have today in today's game is, I would have to say, Patrick Beverley. Because Patrick Beverley plays hard. And Patrick Beverley does get under opponent's skins to a certain degree. Unlike Russell Westbrook, who lets idiot fans get under his skin and have them thrown on out. But that's it, and that's all for Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am out of here. Peace out. See y'all on the next one. God bless.
TunePocket.com.